Let's say I am escaping a corrupt regime and I'm able to get my Bitcoin out of the country. But what if just so happens that when I go across the border, there's a Bitcoin crash, and what I've been protecting and what I just smuggled out of the country just lost its value because there was a crash, right?
Right, but it's better than leaving with nothing.
Yes, that's true, unless it crashes to zero. But what if I could take something across the border that is just as easily to transport, right, but has actual value and is not going to fall, right? See, what if there's other cryptocurrencies that are backed by real assets, let's say backed by gold? Let's say I can go online and I can buy on an exchange, or I can just, transact with somebody else, and instead of taking Bitcoin, I can take a gold coin, a tokenized gold coin that represents ownership of gold sitting in a vault in Switzerland, right? And that vault's there in Switzerland, and all I own is a token that is a digital representation of that ownership. And I can have that on my cell phone or my hard drive or whatever. And now I have a real digital currency, not a fiat digital currency. And so that solves the problem right there. You keep gold in it, and now you introduce blockchain and you tokenize the ownership of that gold, and now it's on the internet. And I can take, let's say the gold coin, the token is a gram of gold or an ounce of gold, whatever it is, doesn't matter what the denomination, but it's divisible. I can divide it down to the point where I can buy a cup of coffee with gold. That was the original criticism. The Bitcoin guys 10 years ago, oh, you can't buy coffee with gold, you can buy it with Bitcoin. Well, try buying it with Bitcoin. It's too expensive. None of these coffee merchants want to get paid in Bitcoin, but they can be paid in gold. I mean, anybody would accept these gold tokens once they really start to circulate, because gold works as money. Gold on the blockchain is faster and cheaper to use than Bitcoin, except it's dependable. You know what it's worth. It's not going to crash. So just like Gresham's law, bad money drives out good money. In good crypto is going to drive out the bad crypto, meaning Bitcoin. When people really have an alternative, that's what they're going to go to. Now, the reason you haven't seen a big push, let's say, to a gold-backed crypto yet, is because people didn't want crypto to affect transactions, at least most of the people. They wanted crypto to get rich, and there was no get-rich-quick story with gold. Gold's not about getting rich quick. It's about staying rich if you're already rich, or not getting broke. It's about preserving what you have. When you get right down to the real promise of a alternative to fiat system run by central banks, and you realize that, wait a minute, the private sector has an alternative to fiat currency, and that's real money. And we can introduce real money into the economy using the blockchain, using all the stuff that everybody liked about Bitcoin. The only difference is, yes, you need a third-party custodian to hold the gold. So what? Competition for custodians. The most reputable custodians will have the coins that are the most readily acceptable in the market and will win out. Just like back in the olden days, when we went from gold to paper money backed by gold, people at one point just transacted in gold coins. But then they started using paper that was backed by gold. Well, which paper would you accept? Well, from an issuer that I trusted, whether it was a commercial bank or some other reputable blacksmith or whoever who had a good reputation, I would take their paper. There's nothing wrong with trusting third parties. They can be vetted, they can be independently audited, they can be insured. So now the insurance companies are going to vet them and audit them. And people buy products. You buy life insurance, you buy auto insurance, you're betting on a third party. The main barrier that you're going to have to honest money being created privately is government, because government hates competition, and governments right now have monopolies pretty much on money, and they don't want to give that up. But look, the government had a monopoly on the mail, and they allowed FedEx. I mean, they still can't deliver first regular mail, but they can do shipments. Uber is around competing with taxi cabs that were not very efficient because they were government regulated monopolies in many cases. So they were inefficient and overpriced, and so the free market found a way to get in. We didn't always have fiat money. Governments created that. The private sector never would have created something that idiotic. We created real money in the private sector. Gold was money, and we created real currency, which was currency backed by gold. Governments initially started with honest money, but then they came up with fiat money because they had the power of government to force people to accept it, and they could force you to pay your taxes in it. But, governments have been coming up with fiat monies for hundreds of years, and they've always failed. I mean, there is no example in history that you could point to of a fiat currency that was around 200 years ago that's still around. They're all gone. Now, yes, the ones that have been around for 50 years, yeah, they're still here. We've only been on a fiat system for 50 years. But 50 years from now, I don't think any of these currencies are going to be around in their current form. They will have been wiped out. And hopefully they'll be replaced by real money. But I think the initial push back to real money is going to come from the private sector. It's not going to come from the government. It's going to come from private sector demanding real money. And so merchants are going to want to get paid in real money, especially when inflation starts to run out of control. They're not going to want your paper. They're going to want real money, and so they'll want to get paid in gold. And the efficient way to do it is using the internet, using blockchain or some other technology where I don't have to physically hand you gold. I can just transfer ownership of gold to you electronically while it's stored safely in a vault somewhere.
I guess I'm just trying to ask you, is there some utility in that where you don't need the counterparty? Is there some benefit to the maneuverability, the transferability, and you don't need that third party if you're in a dire situation like that Venezuelan was? There's really nothing other than that he could have done.
Well, but the problem is, all right, you got Bitcoin.
Not a very
there are thousands of other cryptos that can do the same thing as Bitcoin.
Sure.
Bitcoin is not unique. Yeah. And is that benefit worth the trade-off in that there's nothing behind Bitcoin? So yes, the reason that you can do all this stuff with Bitcoin is because there's nothing there. So the reason I can do all this without a third party is because there's nothing there, right? So I can transfer you my nothing, right? And you can receive that nothing. But if I want to transfer you something, then there's got to be a third party involved that has the something. So the trade-off is we can eliminate the third parties, but then we eliminate the something. And we all have to have confidence in nothing. And, I think that I'd rather trust a third party than trust that nothing is going to be valued as something when it's nothing. Because people could wake up and the price of Bitcoin could crash. But if I have a gold-backed token, the only thing that can go wrong is somebody steals the gold. It's not there. So I could limit that risk by diversifying and just picking quality custodians that I can trust, just like I trust people, for my life insurance or my fire insurance or, all the other counterparties that you trust based on their reputation, based on years or decades of being in the business. And I would rather put my trust in a private company that has a good reputation to protect than put my trust in government or put my trust in, faceless, a network of miners, because there's still people back there, that you need, doing all this. And of course, all this Bitcoin mining costs a fortune. I mean, they use a tremendous amount of energy.